Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another fabulous episode of Stories Around Azeroth. I myself am always Pete Tightscreen Novacoat, joined by the finest gnome this side of the Eastern Kingdoms, one Mr. Frazley Tastic. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. I was just streaming earlier, having a lot of fun with WoW and Classics. So I've been wowing all day. It's nice.
It's been a wow-tastic kind of day, eh?
Exactly, and I'm going to do some more later tonight. So it's going to be just, and I'm not in for the grind though. I compared to another person who I think just dinged 60. I'm almost at 20.
Someone you know's already dinged 60.
Yeah, someone I know that's ding 60. And
Jesus.
I put the bleeps that way you can insert any streamer that you know who's at 60. So that way I'm not calling any streamer out, but you can be your streamer, your favorite one, they're the one that's at 60. I mean, unless I'm your favorite streamer, then I'm not at 60.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, it's good to start with. I mean, we had a really big rambunctious classic episode the last couple of weeks, but what have you been up to these last couple of weeks, my good man, Frazley?
Except for when I went into current with Michael a couple times for the Genome Project. I've pretty much just been in Classic, having a lot of fun in Classic. I'm enjoying the journey, reliving things, and I can't stop playing. I mean, a few nights I stopped and like played other games other than WoW. I mean, there are other games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I've been enjoying a lot of Classic. It's one of those, I think like we touched on last week, it's fun because you don't feel as much pressure. Like you don't have 1,000 things to do. You've got one trail that you're going on. And today I did the famed lock picking rogues one where you're just sitting there picking locks to get to 80, and I'm like, yeah.
Nice. I managed to find like an hour somewhere to fit into Classic this week, and I managed to get up to level 10, but a lot of my time is still going to be spent in retail at the moment. I got my Heart of Azeroth. It's now 67.
Nice.
So I've got another 3 weeks and I'll be done with that. It's been time walking in Azeroth this week, so I took one more character through time walking, and I have got my priest to 120.
Nice. Are you close to the next achievement for classes, or did you already have that years ago?
Oh, I had that when Legion came out. So
okay,
like done all the class rules and everything else. So like it's literally just leveling characters for the sake of extra mount runs. But speaking of mount runs, I did get lucky with another drop this week, and I got the Rusty Mechanostrider from the Arachnoid Harvester.
Nice!
Which means that essentially with Mechagon, all I'm really missing now is the Triumph of Nomagon Vinyl, which is just going to be a drop from Freezer. If I get that, it means I'm literally one step away from the meta, and I can get the Model W. And then I'm essentially done on Mechagon, and I'm about 3 weeks away from getting the meta done on Nashtar now. I'm just missing the Elemental Weekly for 3 weeks to get the last one done, and I'll be done with the meta there as well. So I think next week, after the reset that's upcoming, then I should, if I've managed to find time to do my Call to Arms week quests this week, then next reset I should have every essence at level 3 or higher, which is an achievement in itself. Yeah, it's been a pretty slow week. I've literally just been logging on, spending an hour doing the Azeroth World Tour, and then just calling it a day, really. I've not been that well this week.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, a lot of people are feeling that summer illness. I mean, because I know a lot of people are going through that right now, and they're getting over things. I'm like I got like my garlic and stuff to be like, stay away from me, because I don't want that. I already had that this year, and I don't want it again.
Don't you want to be ill like the rest of us, Frazley?
No.
The Azerothian flu. We could spread the blood. No. We could spread the blood plague around again.
You know, that would be a fun one if they ever bring back old events. I know this one was not in game, like it was not. It was a player bug thing, but it would be cool if they designed a scenario where you can revisit what it was like in that blood plague. That would just be amazing.
I mean, the closest we actually had was when the Death Knights were able to spread their diseases to other players.
Oh,
were you not aware of this? This was a bug that happened a couple of years back.
No, because I knew about the blood plague where everyone like would log in, and everyone was dead in like
So
cities.
the blood plague back in Zul'Gurub was when from Hakar you could get the debuff onto a hunter pet, and then if you'd Hearthstone out, the hunter pet would still keep it.
Yes.
And then the pet would die and it would spread, and then it would just spread from there because everyone conjugated an Iron Forge at the time. And I believe it's because of that they instigated the all debuffs are removed when you leave an instance. But a couple of years back, there was something where the Death Knight diseases were spread amongst players. And so if you you might be able to Google like what Orgrimmar would look like, and just look for Death Knight disease wipes out Orgrimmar or something like that, and you'll be able to see that the players were wiping each other out in major cities. And it was quite similar.
That one is new to me on that one.
It's a couple of years old. They hotfixed it pretty quickly, but it was very similar. Like it just spread like wildfire.
Wow. It would be interesting if characters could get sick in the game. Because, like, I got tetanus in Classic. And it was like my stamina went down for like 20 or 30 minutes.
I guess that's why diseases and plagues and curses and all that kind of exist in the game, to kind of move that kind of feeling around that you can get ill. But there's no long-lasting thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there's curses of wasting and stuff like that, which reduce your movement speed and your stamina and all that, which is about right. But I think it would have to be a very different kind of game, like with proper, like an action RPG, to kind of have stuff like that. Oh yeah, the zombie apocalypse, when they redid that pre-Wrath, that's a good point, as Twitch chat is pointing out to us. Because they redid that, didn't they? They redid the pre-Nax Ramus one as a pre-Wrath launch event, except there's a lot more players pre-Wrath, so it was pretty insane. And yeah, I forgot about that one. Jesus, that's a lot of fun. Have you been up to anything else in Azeroth the last couple of weeks, Mr. Frazley?
I mean, other than doing the chicken dance for chicken and classic and getting my pet, I mean, just really, I love leveling. I love alts. That's kind of one of my things I love to do. So it's been right up my alley for what I want to do.
Okay, that's fair enough. Like, I'm getting to the point where I have a bit more time to level some alts now myself. But I want to try start getting the heritage classes to 60 plus at that point in time, because I think once you get to 60 you can just abuse dungeons from 60 plus until you get to a right area. I know we've got Warlords time walking in 3 weeks, so I'll probably...
That's the first time we get Warlords time walking?
No, we've had it before, but there's
What's
no
the one that we...
So Cataclysm time walking is the one they're redoing where we get the Firelands raid. We're not getting that till December.
That's right. Warlords was introduced in Legion.
Yeah.
People thought that was too soon.
No, I think when the next expansion rolls around, they'll instigate Legion time walking.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. Personally, as I've said before, I think all dungeons should be available in the game to be able to play. I think they could change the dungeon finder into something a little bit more acceptable, where you could just queue for everything. It would probably reduce the amount of queues, like, massively, a little bit.
That's what I'm hoping that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I'm hoping the 8.2 dungeon stuff does. I'm hoping that like when we get more information on what that's like, that it's like, hey, whatever level you're at, queue up and you can eat. I mean. None of the time walking rewards.
Yeah, no. But basically change any dungeon unlocks. So instead of queuing into classic TBC Wrath, Cataclysm Mists. Warlords, Legion dungeons, as you hit those level brackets, it's all just classified under time walking dungeons. And so you'll get the same XP bonus regardless of your level, but it means that you can just have the option to queue into current dungeons or time walking dungeons, and you still get your time walking badges, like for completing it and everything else, and you get the badges per boss as a reward, just so everybody's like happy and actually gives something towards progression. And anything below 110, because then you're into current day dungeons, they'll still get a satchel as well, you know. But yeah, no, that'd be interesting. I would much prefer that, because I think it means that as a high level I could queue into time walking and get a Dead Mines dungeon, and you know, help lobbies and everything else.
Yeah, I enjoyed that in Final Fantasy 14 with Hawk Manor. Hawk Manor is one that I knew every in and out of it, because I mean, you pretty much in that duty finder, you're always queuing up for Hawk Manor no matter what. So I knew that one like the back of my hand. Oh, that's a new cut.
But yeah, no, it's enjoyable just when I was doing it in Final Fantasy, because you just do one as your daily. And you know, you get the big XP reward as well, which is worth doing as an own. But it adds more variety. Instead of being level 60, hitting the dungeon queue and getting Hellfire Citadel or the Blood Furnace, Hellfire Rampart. Sorry, not Citadel. I don't know. I think it'd just be better. But this is why I'm an ideas man. I don't know how hard this would be to implement, you know. But time walking already exists for Burning Crusade up to Warlords, so who knows?
So even a compromise would be if they could just combine all the current time walking ones into one long queue, and I mean maybe reduce rewards when it's not the time walking time.
No, you keep look at every other bonus reward week. All of those actions are available at all times: arenas, battlegrounds, world quests, everything else. So why can't time walking be available all the time, and then you have your weekly quest reward as for doing 5 of them? I mean, it's not changing what's already there. It's just amalgamating several things into one. Like, when I queue when I'm leveling for a dungeon, I don't care really what brand I'm getting. I mean, the Mist dungeons onwards are a little bit better designed, sure. But then anything from TBC onwards is pretty short. The dungeons already exist. I don't know why they just can't all just be amalgamated into a massive queue to join them. You just unlock it as you unlock your level brackets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's general thoughts. That kind of got taken off a little bit of a tangent there on the intros there. Well, we got a couple of bits of news and bits and pieces today. Not much. Everything's been a little bit quiet on the Warcraft front this week. Pretty much we're at the tail end of high of Warcraft Classic into the kind of lull between that and the 8.2.5 news. So I fully expect that we'll be getting, now that Raggy and Onyxia is done and there's going to be this nice gap between this and Phase 2, I fully imagine that we'll start seeing some 8.2.5 ramp up, now that the team will just go back into their separate things until they go back to Blackwing. Because the minute Blackwing Lair opens, that thing's going to get done in one day anyway. And then it's going to be back to waiting another couple of months for Phase 3. It's going to be ridiculous.
I found it funny. Wowhead, I mean, it was a good article. It was about how they modified the backgrounds on Battle.net Launcher to be more generic and not tied to any WoW timeline. Someone on WoW's like, why did you put that? Like, and someone else said to bring something that's not classic related and directly.
Well, this is the thing. They always tried to keep the World of Warcraft background for the current expansion that you own on your account. But I quite like the starter account thing where it just says World of Warcraft and it's got the different separations of all the main characters for all, like, basically all the box art. I like that background. I don't know why that background can't be the main World of Warcraft thing.
Yeah, I could see that one being for the WoW we know here, and then the other one being for just general WoW.
Well, they'll probably update that because they released a specific new key art for Ragnaros. They did a new key art for Onyxia. I imagine they'll do a new key art for Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub, Anchorage, Naxxramas as they go along as well. So it really wouldn't surprise me. But we'll see what happens. The biggest news this week is that Battle.net's under attack via DDoS. It's affected a lot of classic servers, and it's affected some... It's not affecting servers per se, it's actually affecting the IPs that use it, is what it seems to be. So, because I had a couple of my raiders that were affected by it today, turns out that it's mostly because it's the IP that they use, and nobody else really had a problem. So it's really a direct assault due to IP rather than the actual Blizzard servers themselves. Although they have been being under attack, because if it was a DDoS, they could technically have applied. I mean, DDoS is a massive attack, but everybody trying to ram into classic servers would have been a massive attack. Essentially, the amount of players that were trying to log in. So
yeah, and I wonder like what services it also affected, because I know my Pandora was acting up yesterday, so I at the same time that there's a DDoS. So I think it might have been.
I think it's focused on IP rather than it is on Blizzard specifically.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, there's really not a lot of news. I've said 8.2.5. We should expect some news. There was a couple more focuses from Wowhead specifically on a couple of the model changes for Saurfang. I think we're going to have more story-based stuff rather than a lot of anything to do in 2.5. We know that Artifact Knowledge is going to wrap up at the beginning of October, so I'm fully expecting that's when we'll probably see the patch. So we'll probably see a lot of news come out between now and then. The fact that there's not been a lot to test on the server means that it is probably just going to be wind up into 8.3. What do you think, Frazley?
Yeah, because I think they want to get they probably want to get that out before BlizzCon, and then have the big hype of coming in 8.3.
8.2.5 will have a big... It'll have a lot of the big background data, because this one's going to contain all of the anniversary information. It's going to contain the new Recruiter Friends stuff, which they're probably going to launch post BlizzCon. It's going to obviously have the Cataclysm Time Walking, which, as I said earlier, is not going to be active until December anyway. I mean, I was fully expecting 8.3 in January time.
Yeah.
So as I said, when BlizzCon rolls around in November, I'm fully expecting news on an expansion. There'll be stuff on the show floor, and then 2 weeks later they'll release. They'll start rolling into the alpha phase for the new expansion, and then we'll probably see the expansion launch around August-September time next year.
With like probably pre-patch. No, was this one a month earlier for BFA, or was
the pre-patch is normally about a month earlier? Yes.
Okay, because I know Legion felt like it was shorter.
No, Legion just felt like it had a lot of stuff in between. The patches in this one have been slightly delayed, so it feels like it's longer with no real content in between. That's been the big problem.
Absolutely, which is one reason why I'm on Classic, because I don't want to do the grind right now for the
absolutely
deck, because
makes sense. I mean, as I've said, once I hit Heart of Azeroth level 70, I mean, on my main, I'm pretty much done. So it's about just tidying up the rest of things. There's lots of stuff to do in game. I've got to do the Ankaran rep grind on the Horde, so I can get the other mount there, because the Alliance and Horde mounts count as separate, and both factions can use it. And I've still got the Cthulhu quest to do on Horde line once I unlock it. I've got the Direhorn quest to finish off, and I've got like a variety of alts that I need to level still. So there's a lot to do on retail. And Classic was always going to be my diving in point if I want to. But in saying that, a lot of people I know who said they're not going to touch Classic have dived into Classic. And I touched on this a little bit in the episode last week that we recorded. But people have touched World of Warcraft Classic because a lot of their friends who they haven't talked to in years have come back to the game.
Yeah. And like I said, it's fun reliving things. And I feel like I've got a better appreciation for the things I like in current WoW, because I'm like, okay, I appreciate this. I appreciate that this over here is different than how it is. Like, I ran into a thing where I found a mob that was my level. All of a sudden I ran into another mob, and it was like 2 levels ahead of me. It's like, oh, I really appreciate scaling now.
I think that's what a lot of people have noticed. I've noticed a lot of the big... Some big streamers that were really hyped for Classic have gone into Classic, and I've noticed it on their Twitter feeds this week, is that they were like, when you play Classic, you really appreciate a lot of the quality of life changes in the game as it's progressed.
Yeah. And certain things that I'm like, okay, I see why this is better in Classic. That there are certain things that I think that I see where they were going with it, but I think they lost focus along the way. By trying to make it better, it made it worse.
No, I disagree to an extent. Mostly because what people disagree with what they like is why they've left the game. But you have to remember that the World of Warcraft, as I've said this multiple times, I sound like a broken record, but it was designed for a casual audience. As we grew up in the span of the 15 years of the age of the game, we ourselves have lost a lot of time to play the game that we would have had back in college, university, school, whenever you would have started it. And, as that time has dwindled away, between, some people got married, some people have kids, and they definitely don't have the amount of time that it would take to spend doing Classic. They'll log in and play Classic, but now they've got the sub to play Classic, they'll dip into retail. There was a specific couple of posts on Reddit that I've noticed that have been now I have this sub that I've come back to Classic because that's the game that brought it in. I've tried out BFA because I've got the free 110 boost and everything else, and it's got to the point where they're enjoying how casual friendly and more respectful of their time that the current game is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are certain things that I've not done in Classic because of the time commitment. I'm almost to the level of a dungeon, and I know a dungeon's going to take up some time, so I'm kind of putting those off until I have the time to invest into one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, I think between retail, a lot of it is all going to come down to your time that you want to invest and what you want to get back of it. Speaking of Classic, there was a little bit of news that actually appeared that I picked up from a while ago. I didn't mention this to you, Frazley, earlier because I've only just remembered about it. There was a false release that came out from one of, I believe it was one of the German sites, one of the European sites. Any character, like, I believe when it comes around with the anniversary, which means they'll probably announce it at BlizzCon, if you hit 60 on Classic, you get a free upgrade to Warlords, which means you get a free 110 as well.
Smart.
Yeah, no, it's very smart because,
Yeah.
it's just going to be good. Now, what it means for retail players, I imagine that would mean that they'll get a Battle.net credit amount and a free 110 boost, maybe. Or it'll just be a thing. Free 110 boost wouldn't be too bad. There's a lot of Classic races that would be cool to boost up to get Heritage Armor down the line, I imagine.
Yeah, because a boost, am I right, that's $50 or $60 for a boost?
A boost, I believe, is about 40. Well, I'm not sure dollar-wise, but it's about £40, I believe. I will open Battle.net and I will have a look. Shop.
I'm looking for the US side.
Well, no, it's fine. Yeah, you find the US stuff. Plus games. But it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people are presuming that it's a it might have been a leak just to gather people's information on it and everything else and see how accepted it is. So, a level 110 character boost. Available for purchase in game. It doesn't even have a price on the actual on the client. That's really funny. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's getting to level 60 though. Like, they're expecting people to do it casually rather than people who have bombed their way through. But having anything for free, even having £20 or $20 worth of credit, that's a WoW token or two.
Yeah.
That's 2 months worth of WoW sub for free.
It's 60 on the US. So I mean, which
is probably going to be about $49.99 on the EU in the EU. So
yeah, and this is not a 120 boost because
no, it's a 110.
110 boost. Yeah.
The 120 boost is still up in the air. It sits in the data files. But it could sit there, for quite a while. I don't fully expect it. It could be part of the recruiter friend buffs and everything else. We don't really know. It's still sitting there in the files and everything else. But that's the other bit of news that we didn't really talk about because it's been very classic. I mean, it is still really classic focused, to be fair. But I don't know. I think it's a decent reward for hitting 60.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it gets people past some of the grindy stuff and be like, hey, here's the cool stuff. Here's like the stuff to show you our best work yet. And I can see them turning that from a level 110 to boost to 120 once we get into the next expansion, so that they can just modify what you get.
Oh no, I think because it's still, you're essentially just getting a Warlord's key, not a Warlord's, a BFA key, which is what the 110 boost comes with. So it's not like it's additional to what you're getting.
Well, I was saying, like, once we go into the future, okay, so they're getting a BFA, not a Legion key. Okay, so they're getting BFA, and then
everything, the basic WoW starter kit is, it just comes basic and you have up to level 20. It's when you start paying for the sub, you have everything up until the end of Legion. So it's getting Warlord's account on added to that. It just unlocks Warlord stuff for you, and that's what they get for the 110 boost.
So really, 15's a good deal if you think about it, because you
absolutely
get two flavors of WoW.
I'm all for more Blizzard games buffing each other and giving rewards for it. Like, it's what they should be doing more to get, like, it's cross promotion within their own company.
Absolutely. I spent a lot of money in Heroes back when they had the flame strike.
Absolutely.
Because I went in for the WoW mount, and I ended up getting the Candy King Muradin on the unicorn, and it is the coolest thing. And like Muradin is so macho on it, and I love it. I can't, like, rainbows. I think maybe even the unicorn farts rainbows. It's the coolest thing.
But it's a lot of stuff. I imagine as we get closer to 8.2.5 and specifically BlizzCon, that's going to be the big build now. Speaking of BlizzCon, they did release the new key art for BlizzCon. It looks really, really nice. Nothing so much that gives it anything away. A focus on the Barbarian and what looks to be some sort of extra StarCraft 2 bits and pieces. But we're fully expecting Diablo 4, Overwatch 2, whether it's an expansion pack or a brand new game, and the new WoW expansion to be announced at BlizzCon. So it's going to be a pretty hefty week.
Yeah, and WoW had said that whoever's been in the keynote for Warcraft, they didn't look at the other games, but at Warcraft they said has been something big. So Sylvanas is the big centerpiece of this one.
Yeah, which means I think we're still heading towards Shadowlands. I did send you a link a little while ago of some more speculation that's come about with a new, apparently, screenshot of a cinematic for the 8.3 raid.
I saw that, and it looked believable, but I also could have seen somebody on, like, a private server or messing with mapping doing something like that. It's one of those people have messed with models, so yeah.
Yeah, it's done to look believable, and the biggest thing about this sort of thing is anybody that does this sort of thing puts a lot of time into make their thing look believable, but it could very well just be faked. Because if you actually had this, why is it always just a grainy picture off to the side? Why can we not have a proper in-depth screenshot on something like this?
I do want to say it's the whole key art, so and it's all Blizzard properties.
The biggest thing I like about the key art is that they've improved on the thing I hated from the BFA cinematic. Because the BFA cinematic, they made Sylvanas look more human with elf ears, and they changed her skin tone from in-game to blue to a sort of light pink. But what they've done in that key art is that they've kept that kind of humanoid look, but made her skin tone darker to what it looks like in-game, so it's more blue.
Yes.
So I'm a big fan of that, because that's what it should be. I don't mind them changing her appearance, but the colour, she's dead. She hasn't got blood running through her veins, that's why she's blue.
When I'm trying to figure out, like, the background, it's light and dark.
It's just standard. Like, like anything, like it's like all stuff like that. It's just colourful, you know.
Okay, so I can't look too much into the background and be like, okay, because like I'm looking at how like tracers coming out of the ground, so it's all just stylistic. There's no like
stylistic. Yeah.
it's not like this is the time where the light and the dark around Blizzard properties. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm
But
looking too much into it.
we'll move on to our big talking point for the week, and that'll be collections. So, in Warcraft, there is a collections tab. You've got your pets, you've got your mounts, you've got your appearances, you've got your heirlooms, and I think there's one more. Pets, mounts, appearances, heirlooms. There is one more tab, and I can't remember. But it feels like there's toys. That's the last one. It feels like there's a lot of stuff that could become toys and something else. Now, as I've mentioned for many weeks, I'm a big mount collector. I do go and try and do something. I try to collect a lot of pets as well, and I'm aiming to try and do the pet battle dungeons at some point just to see what they're like, because there's apparently some sort of specific story in there. So I want to try and go and investigate that at some point. But
You're in the Nomergon, yes.
I've got Dead Mines and Wailing Caverns to do first before I go to Nomergon and then Stratholme, so...
Okay.
Yeah. But it made me think, is there like anything that they could do to improve on the collections tab? Like, I was looking through some bits and pieces the other day, and I know that when it comes to transmog we can hide just about everything now, but there are particular shirts like the irradiated shirt that you get from Mechagon doesn't have the ability to hide. So it gives your character an entire green glow, and you can't actually hide it. So if you're a demon hunter and you have a lot of your main chest that's clear and hidden because you're wearing leather and it's made to look to movable and everything else, then it just looks like a chain other thing you just going to be wearing. I don't know. There's some stuff I'd like maybe tabards to have a slot on there as well. Because, like, I've still got a bunch of tabards that I could just have in the appearance thing, but I can't turn them on or off. I've just got to wear them if I choose to wear them.
Yeah. What it sounds like is Blizzard still is trying to figure out what's not in the transmog system, and that they're trying to. At one point, they were trying to figure out what items do they want to give people to the cosmetics. I mean, I'm still a big proponent that if it's an event transmog, let's do it any time of the year. Don't just make it event time.
No, that's a good idea. I do agree with that. I think a lot of the mount stuff could be made better. Just a lot of the search functions, I think, could be better.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Like, I'm looking right now at simplearmory.com, which, in my opinion, is my favorite.
Simple Armory is very good. Yes.
And I would love to see, maybe not the planner, because that would probably be more data than Blizzard wants to give people. They want people to. But it would be nice to have like the layout of like they have like here's the mounts that you can get, because having just a list that I have to search through.
Yeah,
I don't like
Blizzard's Armory is really bad for all the information it tries to throw at you.
Yeah, and I'm glad they have an API that pulls in for other things, because then we're able to go to different sites. But it would be nice to have like even your mounts be grouped together by expansion or by stuff like that. Be like, here's all the BFA mounts, and etc. Because then you could be like, okay, I want to go to this content. What should I be looking for? Because it tells you where stuff is. And I mean, or well, maybe this would be an add-on that someone can make. It would be nice to have like a link to go, hey, click this to go to Wildhead.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, they already do have in the normal armory. They do have a lot of Wowhead links built in.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to have that in game. Then
I think it's because Blizzard took a big step back and said, like, we can't hold all of this information, and there are websites out there that do this better. So here's the links to the external sites. But I don't know. I think there's a lot that could make the collections tab better. And I mean, I've said before, like, the books that are within the game, that would be cool to have like our own little library type thing that we can just go back and read at any time. And, you know, people could do dramatic readings of, what are they called? Steamy romance novels, and just do dramatic readings of those.
Yeah, because I think ESO has that, if I'm remembering right. Where you
I believe so. Yeah.
And that was cool, because there are times I'm going through, I'm like, I don't want to read this, and I'm still looking for an add-on to make my books better. because I can't move that window, and
I feel
and-
like the archaeology tab could be moved into either the spell
Yeah.
book or the collections tab. You know, as part of the
'Cause-
professions, because it's just a completely different part of the UI that's clickable and just accessible.
and there's fun stuff to get there. I mean, and even like the Blingtron stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a very small, useless in a way, but ever since you told me what the Blingtron were for, I've been reading those texts, and it's like, oh, so it'd be cool to collect little pieces. Then you could go back and be like, okay, I see the thread through all the stories, and even special whispers. It would be kind of cool if you get a special whisper from like either Xalatath or something. Something gives you a whisper. Kind of collect it in a tab and be
Yeah,
like,
you
here's
just
all
click
this.
it and you can actually hear it.
Yeah, and then you can see like the chain of things. And I'm still one that I think it'd be cool to have like a whole quest log thing. Like, here's all the quests you've ever done, and here's like different steps, and here's the quest text. So either if you click a question, you're like, what did it say? You don't have to go to WoW to look at it again, but you could see a whole zone storyline as you unlock and complete that zone.
I don't know. I think it's about simplifying what's available in game and trying to take away from all the buttons that exist to just open a completely different part of the UI. For example, like why can't the achievements tab sit within the collections tab?
Oh, absolutely, because it makes sense there, and like maybe change it from collections to I mean, yeah, move stats to character, because achievements has stats, and those you could put on the character tab. There's like a little thing underneath, and then you can move achievements to your collectibles, because you don't collect stats. You just, it's what you do. You see the 1206
the
deaths
statistics
that I do.
tab could be just removed from the game, to be honest. You could keep the stuff that updates in real time, but stuff like the boss kills, like from all the different expansions and bits and pieces, are completely irrelevant now.
I would say let an add-on access the API, or maybe it already does that. Keep the API function, because it is nice.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
but yeah, hide it from the player unless the player wants it. One thing Classic has shown me, and it's pretty cool, when you take an interface, give people access to quite a bit, but you let the user decide what they want. It's a pretty powerful thing, and it's one reason why I see Blizzard wants a pretty standard UI, and you can change it to however you want. It gives the player a lot of control over it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's why they've allowed more freedom of expression with how people set up their UI when they implemented the own move everything after many years and everything else, and they haven't really touched any UI mods, and people do a lot of funky things with all the UIs. I mean, I think we talked way back when we were talking about when I was playing around with the UIs, and I found the one that looks like Guild Wars 2, and that looks really pretty, and the Azeroth UI that guys had made, but it was really, really basic, and there was a lot of stuff they had to add to it and everything else. But, you know, even having the accessibility, I can see you got a controller in your hand, having the accessibility to use a controller natively within the game would be interesting.
Yeah, well, and Silverbolt even showed me a while back the viewport add-on, where they were able to move their interface off of WoW onto a tablet hooked into their computer.
Yeah.
So the tablet's showing information, but the screens are free. And like that, I one day may do that, because that is actually a pretty cool thing. I mean, well, they also had it where like they had it on both monitors. It was a huge wide screen. I was like, oh,
The kind of people that have a lot of money to be able to actually have that freedom of expression to do that sort of thing.
oh yeah. Like I saw a person who made a dock for the Golek Solar, and they have 3 stream decks next to it. It's all in this big
Jesus.
wooden panel. I'm like, yeah. Exactly.
Man, I'd like 1 stream deck, let alone 3.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus.
Don't look at my stream deck XL.
But there's a lot of stuff that could be added to the game to just streamline a lot of the things that are there. Because sometimes I have the collections tab just bound to Shift P, you know. But then if I want to access the dungeon journal, I've got to go Shift J.
Yeah.
And I've got to press O if I want to enter the guild and the communities tab, and all of these different buttons where it could all just be, a lot of stuff could just be streamlined together and just added onto like a whole set of tabs, so I could just click where I want to click, you know?
Yeah. A lot of the time I'm trying to figure out either options or windows. I'm like, where's this one window I remember that happened here? And I'm trying to, so you'll see me switching windows, be like, there's the one I want, because I can never forget what the stuff is.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Stuff. Anything that you want added other than that sort of UI functionality? Like any particular tabs you'd like added to the collections tab?
I mean, other than like we talked about the books, whispers.
Yeah.
I would like, maybe this might be too advanced, but it would be kind of cool to have a user, either account or per character notes tab. You can write down notes on your PlayStation, and you can even. I mean,
I think you can actually get an add-on that works as a notepad in the game. I mean, other than say like angry assignments, I know what you're saying. But it would be nice to have like an in-game diary type thing, you know?
Yeah, and then be like, here's what even like a journal. Be like, here's what I was thinking, and like, because like I use the friend notes on Battle.net all the time to be like, who is this person? Where do I remember them from?
Think of having a diary that works from an RP perspective. Like you could document like this, and you could leave it. I think it would work a lot more if you had like an interactable item that you could do in say player housing and everything else. Twitch chat is saying that like a tree showing how all main characters are connected. Having a family tree like that, or which we've talked about. I think it was like episode 1 and episode 2 where we're talking about being able to buff like characters on your account and everything else. You know.
Well, I'm also taking it into like story characters. I'm playing the Return of Obra Dinn, and that game you have a picture of people, and every time you click on one, it shows you every memory that you've ever seen in that, and it's kind of cool to be like, that person's from here, and you're trying to weave it together. Even story wise, it would be nice to have here's what you've done so far. I mean, it doesn't have to be way back in history, but sometimes if you get back in the game, you're like, what has this character done, or what's happened in the story? It'd be kind of cool to be like, here's the main characters that you've done.
Oh, right. I mean, that would be something that the lore team could like put together, and then the rest of the guys could reference, and then they could be like, well, that could go in the game. Having
have like a flag that be like, at this point you've done this quest. Okay, we will update your current story, because what was it? Guard duty. I was playing guard duty, and they have a thing that tells you what you're doing right now, what you've done. It helps keep you in the idea of what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, having a quick biography of like, I mean, as we've talked about the books and the notes and everything else that you can find that it could be like readable in game. It'd be nice to have like little biography on the main characters, like the ones they did. They actually did a whole splash page for Legion of all the main characters, but they didn't do one for BFA. And like having stuff like that in the game could be pretty interesting. Like they've got it called the Adventurer's Guide, which we get updated with every patch. Like why can't that be part of say, like a character tab or a collect? Like we've got character, we've got stats, we've got rep. Why can't we have an extra tab there which says Adventurer's Journal?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ooh. And even going further, in each Chronicles, you have to buy the Chronicles from whatever retailer. But then there's,
I think if it gave you a code to unlock in the game, and then you could unlock like extra book info that goes on there and everything else. Again, it's Blizzard stuff which gives you unlocks for being a Blizzard fan.
Yeah, and if we go to have like an in-game Chronicles, like I don't own all the Chronicles, but I have a few. I've not read as much as I should have.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to be like in-game, be like, I know this Chronicles, aha, and it would encourage sales of the outside medium as well.
It's a lot like the old TCG. Like if you picked up specific rarity of certain cards, they give you toys and little usable items or mounts or pets in the game.
Oh yeah,
like you were rewarded for doing something related to Warcraft that wasn't in the main game.
Why do I don't have them here, but why do I? Oh yeah, I got the Griffin and the Werven plushies.
Yeah.
Why do I own the Final Fantasy 14 art book? The Blu-ray songs. Well, because the music is awesome, and you can't buy it on any streaming service. But still, I own those because of in-game stuff as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of companies want to throw external merchandise at their player base, because they know a lot of players are invested in the world, and it would be nice if it's cynical, where there is a cynical side to it when you start adding codes to unlock stuff in game for outside goodies to get. But it's just an added benefit. It's like paying for 6 months of sub and getting a free mount.
Yeah,
it's an added benefit. I think it would be good. I honestly do, and I think the collections tab could do with a couple of bits of things. I think a lot of the UI could be used to. He's just going to cover himself in every single plushie known to man now.
That was within reach of me.
He's not even going to be playing Classic later. He's just going to be buried under his own pound of plushies. Oh my goodness. There's a lot to the UI that's basically there. I mean, the WoW UI is very basic. Medium is disgusting and horrible as it is, and that's why add-ons and UIs exist to make it look prettier.
Yeah, I can't quite do LVUI. I've tried multiple times. It's a great UI. I just can't get myself to go that far, but I have been augmenting the UIs with add-ons.
Yeah, I mean, you do what's best for you. I think you would find it better with LVUI because you can actually scale the individual bars to be bigger, which I think would help for you specifically. Because you have a lot of sight problems, don't you? So
yes,
yeah. So, but you can scale the UI down, but then scale each action bar to the size that you want it. So I keep trying to play it, but yeah. Twitch chat is saying that you use LVUI. I've got LVUI on Classic and Retail. I don't play a lot of it in Classic, but I'm not really. Yeah, exactly. I'm not really messing around with a lot of the UI for Classic at the moment, so because I'm not playing a lot.
Yeah.
Of it.
Well, and I do like some of the feel of Blizzard UI, which is why I go the hacky way of, like, I have move anything on Retail, and I'm working on getting. I'm waiting for moving anything to go on to Classic, because I have one that scales most windows.
Yeah.
On Classic, and it is amazing. It's helped a lot. So
I mean, it's got a very gothic and Warcrafty feel to it, which was brilliant for the first two expansions. But then once you get to Wrath and you get past that and you get to Cataclysm onwards, it faded away. And especially as you've mentioned before, we've got more of a sci-fi theme and it's just out there now. The basic UI just falls away, and I think Blizzard specifically doesn't touch the artwork on that because of its nostalgia value to a lot of people, and the fact that there are UIs out there which you can just use to pretty up the game as it is.
Yeah.
But that's that, I guess. I mean, I think we've pretty much said everything we can on this point, and hopefully there'll be a bit more news to just chat about by this time next week, or some other bits and pieces. It's a slow week.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we've had the good chat. I think there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about that they could add to the game.
Absolutely. And I like that this show, as you said, is a lot of ideas and stuff like that. It's fun to talk about ideas, and
yeah.
The only thing is, I think I'm trying to like your WoW the best in some areas.
That's because my WoW is the best.
And in an alternate universe, you're actually the game developer. You're Ian.
Oh God, could you imagine if I was Ian Hazakostas? Oh, all the power. I don't know. I don't know. Could I be a game developer? I'd have all the ideas, but no actual skill. There you go. You see,
it is like one thing I want to bring up. Just a quick tangent. I know somebody that works for one of our House representatives, not for the federal government, but for the state government.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you never realize, you have an idea, how many people are for and against your idea, and how many things that it affects. So Blizzard, we never see all the meetings that go on about, one thing that we think is so simple.
Here's the thing, yeah? Here's an idea for upgrading the collections, yeah? But over here is where it weighs up in its terms of necessity. Like, it could be really good, like implementing all these things to make it good, but compared against what's needed for the beginning of an expansion, would it just become a selfie camera patch? And is that what they want a patch to live by? Just the collections update? You know, it's really funny because even if you look back to some of the patches for Classic WoW, like there were patches which were simply quality of life updates. Take, for example, the weather in-game update. That patch was advertised solely on having sun, rain, sandstorms, snow in different zones. Advertised solely on that. It was a weather update specifically. I think the patch was even called Stories of Azeroth. But, you know, people remember it because it was iconic like that. If you got,
I remember that.
If you got a patch which was sold basically on, we're updating the collections tab to all of this and we're adding all of this that you can find within the world, you'd have the lore nuts and you'd have anyone who loves their collection stuff and getting 100% in the game, and they do exist, they'd go mental for it. But the people who are staunch PvPers, staunch raiders, and just play the game to do that, they're not going to be interested in that, and it will to them literally be another selfie camera patch.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, Blizzard probably don't want a patch based on that alone these days. Because if we got a weather patch, people would be all for it, but it would be remembered now as literally, oh, it's the patch where we got the weathers around Azeroth and nothing else.
Now, I know there was more to it, but I still remember the patch in Classic that gave you the ogre butt flaps. Like, it was a big selling point. Your ogres will actually look good. You won't see their butts anymore.
You wait. You wait until we actually get ogres as a playable race and people use gnomes as stools.
Yes.
But I think we're pretty much at our time for the week. This has been Stories Around Azeroth. Mr. Frazley, where can they find you around the internet?
They can find me at Frazley.com, Frazley.com, and at Frazleytastic on Twitter.
Is that it? Is that all they can find you?
Oh, and you can also find me on Twitch at Frazley S. S as in Sam, or sweet.
Brilliant stuff. You can find me on the Twitter at Titans Creed. You can find my gaming specific one where I don't ramble daily at Gaming Phoenix. You can find this podcast in video form every week over on youtube.com/Project Phoenix Productions, or you can find me streaming 5 to 7 days a week when I'm not ill at twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. Thank you very much for watching and or listening if you've joined us live or if you're joining us on VOD or on the podcast form. It's appreciated, every single one of you. We will see you next week for another Stories Around Azeroth. And as Frazley always likes to say,
be awesome.
Be awesome indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.